Welcome back to the MR2 build. We're working on a big problem today. Can you figure out what it is yet? Have you guys figured out what the problem is yet? I know it looks bad, but trust me, it looked a lot worse when I first pulled the carpet up. Now, why did I pull the carpet up to begin with? Was because of this. These seat brackets broke a long time ago. So yesterday I thought to myself, why don't I go ahead and see how bad the rust is? Luckily for me, this side over here is perfectly fine, not a speck. However, this is not, and obviously. Luckily I've tested to see how bad the rust has got out. Over here is really solid. This is solid, and so is this. There's a tiny hole back here which I could patch myself, but I'm gonna have to take an angle grinder and chop away the bad stuff. So I'm pretty sure I already know what to do. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. Hey guys, Chris Fix here, and today so how do I know that this is bad metal and this is good metal? Well, just simply doing this. It doesn't do anything. This is just metal that's just been laying on there. So it's fine. Are you sure about that? This has a tiny hole back here. Luckily, thank God, this bolt already came out for the seat bracket. I have one over there. And thank God that this side is fine. I think what actually happened is the soft top. You sure about that? Now, obviously soft tops go bad, and this car being 22 years old, it's got a lot of holes. It's got one here, it's got one here, they're everywhere. So what happens is over time, the water will fall down, trickle down. There's actually some, when it rains, you can actually see the water trickle down past the speakers, and it'll sit here. And when I pull this carpet up, there's a bunch of water sitting back here. So the soft top is actually the reason it's rusted. And in fact, there's actually an undercoating under here, and the metal underneath, squished in between the top and the rubber, was completely fine. You sure about that? That's why? It's just surface rust that is just, over time, soaked in and chipped and chipped and chipped away to where there was a hole and there was nothing to support it anymore. So I'm really glad I got to this before it got worse.
Worse? How can they get any worse? Take a look around you, Ellen. We're at the threshold of...
I was already going to do an undercoating on this car anyways, but unless I pulled this carpet up, I would not have seen this. So I'm really glad I actually got to this before the whole thing was gone and I could have been Flintstoning this thing.
Jump in this car, hop in this car, paddle it with your feet like Wilma and Barney.
So the first order of business is going to be removing the seat. Now luckily this bolt's already out. I had no problem doing that with some PB blaster and waiting around for a little bit. Gotta do this one. These front two bolts are completely toast, so that's perfectly fine, and I will show you guys how to do this and fix this problem, because a lot of times people will just neglect these and then you have this problem. But that's okay, I'll show you how to fix that later. So now, let's get this seat out.
You can tell in these series of clips that I'm about to show you that it goes from, hey, I'm excited, to, I want to kill myself.
Also, a little trick, if you're having trouble getting your sockets on, make sure you clean this off with a wire brush, and then you can take a hammer and just hammer this on. And if you're like me, you don't have an extended socket wrench, and you don't have a piece of 1x1 tubing to, slide over this, you can grab yourself a pair of vice grips and clamp it down, and it might just give you the right amount of leverage. Well, that didn't work, so now we're gonna try some redneck science. Actually, I have an idea. Nice. Another man's junk is another man's treasure. Finally got the seat out and revealed that I don't think it's as bad over here, but this and this is definitely a problem that I'm gonna have to figure out. But now I'm gonna go and test all this metal to see if it's bad around any of these other spots. Alright, after taking my my handy dandy drill with a wire bit on the end, we managed to clean this out pretty well. I noticed there's a little bit over here I'm gonna have to, I don't know if it needs to be completely removed because it's still strong. I just don't know if I just hit it so hard that it did break, but we'll manage that when we get there. This is gonna have to be looked at, and this I'm just gonna chop out and put in some, I don't know, 2x2 or 1x something square tubing, put that in there. But before I do that, drill a hole, put a nut on the bottom, inside weld that to that, and that way the bolt will have something to thread to. This is gonna get out from here, get cut out. I'm gonna clean up some of this stuff, smooth around that angle, make sure that's good. Other than that, it's really not that bad.
One eternity later.
All right, I've been sanding and sanding and sanding. Now it's gonna be an attempt to cut some of the stuff out. I've got my handy dandy angle grinder. So we're gonna see how well we go. Tell you what, I've been doing this for basically all day long. It's hot. It's humid, it's hot, it's miserable, it sucks. When I get my own shop, I'm having like the biggest fans possible, and I'm gonna get like 3 torpedo heaters for the winter, because this is awful. I may just cut this section out. I'm not even gonna cover this back over because I don't care. Gonna trim this back, gonna cut this out, trim some of this, maybe just make that a whole square. And then just kind of trim away at some different things. I know my hand's everywhere, but listening to my Wolf of Wall Street while I work, it's a pretty good time.
4 to 6 weeks later.
All right, so after like a hot minute of being away, I'm back now. And this is what's been done. So I'm feeling a little sick, so don't mind me. So I know it doesn't look absolutely perfect, but it is all welded, it's all sealed, the seat is back in and tight. Just gotta put one more bolt back there, and don't mind how rusty the brackets are. I've been away for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 weeks doing this project. I've been traveling and doing other things, so this has just been sitting at the house, so it's all good. So all we have to do now is fix the coolant line, which I of course broke while loading it on the trailer, which was super fun because it actually wasn't in the part where I fixed it. It was in the part where it was stock, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, as you can see, this is where I fixed it, and that's where I broke it. I actually bent this here and cracked it, thanks to my buddy loading up his Prelude onto the trailer and bending up some metal on there. This actually caught, and this broke, so now we get to cut this little section out and go and replace it. So good thing I've done this before, and I have an angle grinder this time, and I have Timothy up there videoing because he's such a good cameraman. Do you have anything you want to say?
Nope, except that this is a dumb idea.
Why is it a dumb idea?
It is. No really reasonable explanation for it.
Well, you have done these big jobs.
For the reason that it broke down is, you'll have that on them big jobs.
Okay, so I've done some observing, and this is right against a gas tank, and that just seems like a really, really stupid idea. And also, I don't want to accidentally push through and cut into this, because then I'm going to have a big problem of it leaking everywhere, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is call my buddy at AutoZone and see if they have a pipe cutter. It's really not that thick of material, and also it'd probably be a whole lot safer. Alright, so I'm using the angle grinder because there's the gas tank right there. I went ahead and got a tailpipe breaker. Basically, you just have like these semi-sharp little discs in there, and you wrap it around and you crush it. So I'm actually going to use this instead. It goes down to a 3/4 inch pipe, so hopefully that's small enough to fit around there. I mean, it gets pretty small. We're going to go and try it, so. Oh, it's so close. I don't know if you guys can see that. That link is so close to hitting that. Well, you might try and do this other one over here. Golly. Alright, we're gonna go and skip ahead to where I can actually get this crimped down a little bit more. I managed to get this off here, so I've got this side down. I've got this side zip tied up in here, so now this has worked pretty well. But now I'm gonna make sure I can really get a good angle on there, cut that down. I still have all this piping, so what I might do is I've got a curve down here of a little bit of extra, so I might extend this over so I don't have to use as much. But I really need to make sure I get the right size tubing for this as well. I'm sorry my voice is a little bit stuffy. I don't feel very good today. I've been sick like all week, but I need to get this done, so we're gonna go ahead and cut all this down. Make sure I don't cut the piping by accident. Could technically fit along through here, but I really don't know if I want to do that, considering, well, for one, I'm gonna have to go get tubing anyways, so I might as well just extend this in the safe way of going around it rather than go into our gas tank. I'm one speed bump away from unknowingly ripping the coolant line out.
Cut this thingy off.
Yep, he cut the tubing back so I can actually use that little clamp that's supposed to be used. Got this side done, so we got our tubing off, as well as this little piece that I want to replace it. So now we're gonna go to AutoZone and get some tubing. Hello, OSHA supervisor. I think you're sleeping on the job again, aren't you? Since I didn't get a quite long enough, I'm gonna use this piece right here, make it kind of short and nice and smooth so I can connect it here, then have the other tube go in here and clamp it, because I didn't have any connectors at AutoZone, unfortunately.
Let me just finger this real quick.
What'd you just say to me? There's probably a better way of doing this, but I just took a screwdriver and started peeling out the little burrs so I can actually cut them off. You can see there, they're pretty fragile, so. There we go. A lot better. Well, you'll have that. Alright, so I managed to get that hole pretty nice and open, no burrs, so now I'm going to go ahead and chop this off with my angle grinder and then do the same. Alright, well, it took a minute, but both sides are pretty clean, so let's go try and put this on the hoses. Alright, we got that side on over there. We have this side right here. I used that little metal piece because there's no connectors at AutoZone, and this is going to work perfectly because it's the same size. So now we're going to use my heat gun, heat everything up, make sure it has a good solid connection. Then we're going to clamp it all down and hook it up. It should work about, I don't know, 10 times as better as it did before, and be the same shape as the OEM, just in rubber form. So now we're going to try, and this thing's going to be hot. I just don't know how hot. Whew.
Yeah, you really thought this through.
I've done it once before, so I kind of have a prior experience. Look at that going on there.
I figured the rubber would just melt and be stuck to it.
Well, it's made to hold hot coolant, so it's pretty heat resistant.
Fair enough.
Wow, I don't know the correct terminology for that, but you have to let it run and let the oxygen, the bubble, we put air bubbles in here. So if you just try to drive the car, it's gonna throw a temperature light because there's air bubbles in the system. So what you gotta do is you gotta start the car with the cap off for about maybe a couple minutes or so, and it'll let all that air escape. So I'm gonna try and push in just a little bit more. See if I can't even hide it. That would be awesome if I could. All right, we have a really solid connection here. You can't even tell, can you? Can you, Timothy?
No.
No, not really. If it was clamped up in there, you probably wouldn't even notice until you realize that.
Well, I can tell because
yeah, you can tell, but it looks really good. I'm proud of this one. Now we're gonna do this one, and I'm gonna go ahead and put hose clamps on here. Timothy's got this side over here pretty much on there. He's got it clamped down, just doesn't slip off in any way. I'm getting ready to clamp this side down, but I'm having a little trouble with these. This one was just like those old key turns, which I know they're not as strong, but they were a lot easier to put on. But now we're trying to put these on, and these suckers just don't really wanna. Am I doing this wrong? Is there a wrong way to do a hose clamp? I mean, I'm sure there is, but it just doesn't want to feed into it for some reason, and I don't get it. So we're gonna try and mess with these. I feel so incredible right now. That's probably why my comedic value has already been like not at all in the video. This is where Timothy's supposed to make fun of me. He's like, dude, you had no comedic value to begin with. So we have this side on pretty well. I mean, it's as good as it's gonna get, but they're not like super tight. You never want to do that. You don't want to pinch through the rubber, but I'm gonna make sure they're all the same tightness. This one though, I don't think I can get it any more on there. I'm gonna heat it up just a little bit more and see if I can't get it on there just a little bit.
Think this one?
Yeah, this has been a long time in the making trying to get this project done. I know I really didn't mention it before, what he used to weld it, but he used a milk truck door.
I am the milkman. My milk is delicious.
To, he cut that out into shape, put it in, used self-tappers to pinch everything together and then welded it down. I know self-tappers is usually not the best effect, but when you're doing something like that where you don't have an open space to clamp something around it, it's kind of, you know, there's stuff in your way. You can do that. I probably wouldn't have done it that way, but I don't know how to weld, and I don't think a shop would have taken on this kind of challenge. All right, as you guys can see,
Hello there.
help you? What are you doing, Braden?
I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be used on the hood.
Alright, so it looks pretty good. We got everything zip tied up in there. Just using the other hoses and other mounting points, because there's used to be a mount here. Sadly, it got ripped out the first time. Obviously, you can see the self-tappers here. I know there's a rust spot. It's from underneath, not the actual new metal. And there's bolts for the new brackets and everything. But other than that, the body of the underside is really not that bad.
I forgot my fitting.
I didn't ask.
Okay.
So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and start putting coolant in here. I think this is right. I think.
I need my fitting.
So anyways. Alright, final update. It's got all the coolant in it. No leaks. I'm gonna trim those zip ties there. Holding the temperature. I'm gonna add some brake fluid because I need it. Isn't very exciting, but it had to be done. It's all done. I know this isn't as exciting because you guys didn't see it done, but it was done by somebody I trust. The welds are not perfect. The way it was done was not perfect. And I don't blame them for that, because this is a 22-year-old car. It's not gonna be factory OEM perfect show car. It's just a fun toy. And if you guys don't like it, that's fine. It's not your cup of tea. But this is not some crazy 1,000 horsepower something Viper or something. These are cheap eBay seats. It's a really crappy Mishimoto shift knob with a crappy Miata shift boot and some other random things. But I hope you guys do enjoy this build because I absolutely love it.